Hello. We are discussing the anatomy and physiology of speech. In this presentation, I intend to go for speech part 4 and would like to draw a diagram explaining the membranes of the larynx, which in the last presentation I could not discuss properly. And I did not write much in speech part 3, and that's why some of the names of the cartilages may not be grasped by everyone. So in this presentation, I will begin with the cartilages, the classifications, with the help of the PowerPoint presentation, and subsequently I will go for the membrane of the larynx. So now I share the screen, and obviously we have discussed this. The front of the particularly larynx and trachea here. And the next slide. The classifications. I am going to give various classifications. Already I have given 2 classifications. Classification of the cartilages. Actually, classifications of the cartilages. And classification of the interior of the larynx. Now, here are the classifications. Classifying cartilages according to size. And I bring it here. According to size, we have considered large cartilages and small cartilages. According to number, unpaired and paired, single and paired. According to structure, hyaline and fibrocartilage. Hyaline cartilages and fibrocartilages. According to tendency to calcify or ossify. Some cartilages have a tendency to calcify or ossify. Others do not have such a tendency. And according to functions, the large cartilages can protect. The small cartilages like cuneiform require protection themselves. Now, which are the cartilages? On the right, the names of the cartilages are appearing. Here they are. And thyroid, cricoid, epiglottis, arytenoid, corniculate, cuneiform. Now, you take up any one cartilage. Suppose we take the smallest, cuneiform. This is located in the aryepiglottic fold region. According to size, it is a small cartilage. According to number, it is a paired one. according to structure, it is a fibrocartilage, elastic fibrocartilage. And such cartilages do not have a tendency to calcify or ossify. So it does not possess that tendency. And the function, well, it hardly has any function. It's a small cartilage. It provides some rigidity to the airy epiglottic fold that we can deduce. And no muscles are attached there. So it is not of any particular importance. Coming to the classification of the interior, we have discussed that there are three parts of the interior. In the next slide, from speech part 3, this will be demonstrated further. Interior is classified according to innervation, part supplied by the superior laryngeal nerve, its internal laryngeal branch, and according to development, part derived from the fourth arch, fourth pharyngeal arch, and part derived from the sixth or the last pharyngeal or branchial arch. In fact, you can correlate this classification. Like for the interior, the part of the interior which develops from the fourth arch is supplied by the superior laryngeal nerve. And part of the interior which develops from the sixth arch is supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. And similarly, in case of the cartilages, you can correlate. If it is a hyaline cartilage, then it has a tendency to calcify and ossify. As for example, thyroid cartilage is a hyaline cartilage. So it has a tendency to calcify or ossify. Generally, unpaired cartilages are hyaline. That's why thyroid, cricoid. But exception is epiglottis. Epiglottis is elastic cartilage. E is for elastic. The paired cartilages, arytenoid, corniculate, cuneiform, are generally fibrocartilages, elastic cartilages. With the exception, base of the arytenoid, which is pyramidal in shape, the base of the arytenoid is hyaline. Apex is elastic. And exercise, where do you find the cartilago cretaceous? And this is from speech part 3. And quickly you can look at the various elements. Here is the hard bone, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, trachea. Similarly, in the profile, hard bone, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and trachea. And there, interior of the larynx, three parts. The upper part we have called supraglottis or supraglottic compartment. We have also called it vestibule, vestibule of the larynx. Middle part is called sinus of the larynx, ventricle of the larynx, and sometimes it is also called glottis. And that's why below the glottis, whatever part remains will be called infraglottic compartment or infraglottis. The part above the vocal fold, this is vocal fold, develops from the fourth pharyngeal arch, and that's why it is supplied by the superior laryngeal nerve by its internal laryngeal branch. And part below the vocal fold, right up to there, in the interior of the larynx, develop from the last pharyngeal arch or sixth pharyngeal arch, and is therefore supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve that now enters the larynx. There, in fact, it is located initially between trachea and esophagus, in the groove between them, usually. Recurrent laryngeal nerve. Fine. And this other diagram we don't need. Now, I will require the diagram of the interior, which I will redraw in the next slide. And already we have considered several ligaments. Quickly, I point them out. The thyroid membrane attached to the heart bone near the upper border. Its median part is thickened, and it is called median thyroid ligament. Its lateral part is also thickened. It is called lateral thyroid ligament. And then this is the cricothyroid ligament or membrane. Median part is usually called median cricothyroid ligament. And the lateral part is usually called conus elasticus. But there are terminological variations here, and I will not go into them. Okay, and finally, cricotracheal ligament is there. Here it is, cricotracheal ligament. And epiglottis is connected with the hyoid bone by hyoepiglottic ligament. One line I have shown here. And with the thyroid cartilage inner aspect by thyroepiglottic ligament. Now we go for the next slide. Okay, I will draw with the help of the whiteboard particularly. Okay. This is the oral part. Then pharyngeal part, these are continuous. I will put the hard bone here. In sagittal section. I will put the thyroid cartilage in sagittal section through the midline, somewhat like this. Previously, we had taken section through the left lamina of the thyroid cartilage. This time through the median plane. And then the cricoid cartilage arch. cricoid cartilage lamina at the back. I have enlarged everything. And here is the lamina of the cricoid cartilage, which is at the back. And then we find the first tracheal ring. It should be shown flattened, somewhat like this. Similarly, another. The 20 rings are there. And then this is the back where you find soft elements, not cartilages. Trachea is muscle and other layers of the wall of the trachea. The epiglottis we will show like this. And again, I will put those ligaments, ioepiglottic and thyroepiglottic. And I put the aryepiglottic fold in this situation. I will correct that little bit. Go back to the pen. Yes. Little bit curved and the curvature has still not come. Okay. I go a little bit slowly. Somewhat like this. And now I will show here the arytenoid cartilage. Actually, this should be considered as arytenoid. Spical part. And then the muscular process. This is the vocal process. The corniculate is in this situation. And cuneiform is there, a nodule. These are the elastic cartilages. Now, if you remove the mucosa from the interior of the larynx, then you will find fibroelastic membrane. Previously, we have considered it, coronal section like this. And prolong it down. Vestibular fold, the vocal fold, like this. And similarly on the other side. But this is the mucosa. The next layer, suppose we give another color here. Then that next layer is fibroelastic membrane. There, as well as here, in the vocal fold also. The next layer is fibroelastic membrane. Which is missing in the region of the sinus. Now I will put the upper part of this fibroelastic membrane in this situation, where there is aryepiglottic fold. So next to the mucosa, we will put the membrane and let it go here, let it go here, let it go there. Similarly, in this situation, so this membrane, we can make it thicken. This membrane is called quadrangular membrane. Obviously, it has got four borders. Quadrangular membrane. The lower margin of that membrane, here it is called the vestibular ligament. It is called the vestibular ligament. This one, I make it more prominent. Okay. Vestibular ligament. Outside this, there is musculature, and inside this, there is mucosa. So basically, three elements we have to consider. We have considered two of them here, the mucosa, fibroelastic membrane, and the next layer will be musculature, skeletal muscle. Muscle we are going to discuss in the next presentation. Now I am putting another membrane, and we will go for the green color here. And that membrane runs somewhat like this. Here. Its upper margin is the vocal ligament going to the vocal process. And I put it vertical here. It is called cricovocal membrane. And we have given it one other name, conus elasticus. Conus elasticus. So what is vocal ligament? It is the upper border of cricovocal membrane or conus elasticus. What is vestibular ligament? It is the lower border of quadrangular membrane. So two membrane. This is quadrangular, and the lower membrane we have called it cricovocal, we have called it conus elasticus, and it is also called the triangular membrane. So I write those terms here if you want, and we return to black color. Cricovocal anyway, the V is there. Vocal. Cricovocal membrane. This one. Or triangular membrane. So triangular is simple. The other membrane is quadrangular. Is that fine? So this is about the membrane. Now we will be able to discuss in the next presentation the musculature. And I share the screen again. And we should get the PowerPoint there. And as we are coming to the end, I go for the next slide. This is the interior that we discussed. Let's see. Alan said has drawn like that. The thyroid cartilage there, cricoid there, at the front arch, at the back lamina. Arytenoid cartilage in this location, but the muscle is shown there. Vocal fold, vestibular fold, the corniculate cartilage will form corniculate tubercle at the aryepiglottic fold. Cuneiform cartilage will form cuneiform tubercle in the lower part of the aryepiglottic fold. This is epiglottis. Vestibule of the larynx, sinus of the larynx, infraglottic compartment. And there the larynx ends and trachea begins. And the next one, the same book. Rima glottidis, very important region between the vocal fold and arytenoid cartilage. Then from above, this is the thyroid cartilage, right and left laminae. The front part of the rima glottidis is called intermembranous part. Back part is called intercartilaginous part. And it is at the rima glottidis that phoneton occurs. Very important. And now I am stopping the share, and I think I have completed whatever I wanted to discuss in this presentation. All the time, remember, for any speech, energizer is required. Energy comes from the lungs and associated structures. Then phoneton occurs at the vocal fold. Vocal fold in the rima glottidis. Vocal fold should be approximated. Rima glottidis, if it is wide open, phoneton cannot occur. It is just for respiration. After phoneton, there is resonance, which is provided by many structures, including larynx. Articulation is still higher happening, and for that you require the mobile elements like the upper and lower lips, the soft palate, also called velum, and little bit mobile pharynx at the back. So one of the pharynx is also one of the articulators. And immovable structures are the teeth, dentition, and hard palate. They are called articulators. After articulation, the speech emerges in the final form. The speech part 4 is over. Next, I will be discussing about the muscles of the larynx with reference to speech generation. Thank you very much.